Nothing could make a millennial feel older than finding out that Final Destination is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. Hello everyone and welcome to Flickering Myth. My name is EJ Marino and my goodness, I am so excited for today's video. We're going to be looking at the legacy and impact of the original Final Destination and looking at why I think this is one of the best, if not one of the only supernatural slashers. Not too long ago, I had the wonderful pleasure and a really fun night of gory kills to go back and watch all the Final Destination movies. It was such a nostalgic ride, seeing the iconic truck kill in number 2. You remember that one gymnastic kill? Yeah, all of these were just so burned in my memory, but none of them really hit as hard as the original film did. I don't know if it's my love of Devon Sawa, that Jeffrey Reddick script and idea that is just so strong, if not just all of the fun things coming together to make an overall great piece, but I just love the original Final Destination. So to celebrate its anniversary, I'm more than happy to do that. It was a movie that I remember just being such a touchstone. 2000 is a weird year for horror. We're coming out of the Scream era, where everything was a slasher, everything was a meta slasher, but we're not really into the Saw territory where we're getting into the torture porn or the heavy remake era of the Platinum Dunes. We're in this weird middle ground, so Final Destination kind of exists in its own world. I do believe there's a supernatural feeling. Think of all the J-horror that was really popular at the time, like Ringu and The Grudge. That kind of stuff is brewing in horror pop culture, but we still have a slasher element to talk about because that's not dead. Hell, slashers still are not dead to this day. So yeah, overall, I really think Final Destination just comes together to feel fresh and different. Still to this day, I can't think of a movie quite like this. Maybe The Monkey that I saw this year reminded me of, just the insane kills and how, the happy accidents of it all. Well, happy accidents, because no one's really happy in a Final Destination movie. My goodness. Devon Sawa in this movie specifically is so stressed, so sweaty. I get it, the haircut's bad. It's 2000, I understand, baby, but oh my god, I felt so bad for Sawa in this movie. He is on edge, and I get it though. When death is hunting after you, what other feeling can you feel? What I really do love about this movie, though, is seeing all the creatives come together. This is like a X-Files all-star game here. If you loved the X-Files in the mid-90s to when it kind of ended up wrapping, which, I don't know, do people like the later seasons of X-Files? I never really got into them. But yeah, this is just kind of a amalgamation of so much of that. Because we have Jeffrey Reddick, who came up with the idea for the script. He was an X-Files writer. And then he comes together with James Wong. And then he also has Glen Morgan is there. And these are all kind of X-File minds, and they're coming together to brew up this idea, and it's so interesting. I just love that they were able to make this. It's so different. I can only imagine the pitch meeting for being hey, so death is gonna kill people. And everyone's yeah, no. They're no, death has a hit list. You got off the hit list, now he's going to put you right back on it. What a weird, elevator pitch, but that would work for me. And that's exactly why these movies have lasted so long. That's why we're having a new installment coming up with Final Destination Bloodlines. I'm so excited for that movie. That little trailer that they dropped, the little teaser with the tattoo shop or the piercing place. Ugh. I'm already cringing. I'm already terrified. Ceiling fans terrify me. That's something good about Final Destination. I used to be scared to take showers, with the door locked because of the scene in this Final Destination movie where he chokes in the bathroom. Again, iconic moments burned in my head. I think the only part of this movie I really don't love is the final act with the car and the electricity. I love the final gag, the kind of big, oh, you think this is over kind of moment. I love that. But before that, when I'm just oh, yeah, I guess we'll have this weird ending with Claire and the car. Just my least favorite part of this movie, but everything up until the last 15 minutes, I think, are just banger after banger after banger. You feel the stress, you feel the anxiety, you kind of wanting to start to solve the mystery too of well, who's next on this thing and this, and I just love that Final Destination was able to kind of get my mind working as much as it did. For, again, a movie with a supernatural edge, with a slasher edge to it, it should not be this memorable, but it is. So why would I call this a supernatural slasher? I know a lot of people are going to hear the term slasher for Final Destination and go, huh? What? There's no Jason, there's no Michael, there's no Freddy. Sure, I will agree with you there. I definitely think, there is not a masked killer or a central figure with an iconic weapon, but death is the killer in this movie. he is such a force. I mean, I can give you a great example of him like literally creeping up with the water or the ghostly smoke that appears behind people. Now, that is not something that stays with the rest of the Final Destination movies, but I just love the idea of like the Grim Reaper being the slasher here. He has this list, much like Santa, he's going to check it twice, naughty or nice, like he's going to figure out what's going on. And that's kind of interesting that, like, what happens if you jump off of the Grim Reaper's list? Is he going to come back for those kills? And that's exactly what this premise is. And it does feel like a slasher. We're watching a group of hot young adults deal with life, and you're like, okay, cool. And then one by one, they're starting to die, and you're like, oh, and that's again the slasher formula. We're coming off Scream, Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer. We're coming off this era, which is the reboot and the reinvention of the slasher genre. So I definitely think that Final Destination fits weirdly into that. Again, we don't have the traditional setup for it, but I don't think we've ever really had a supernatural slasher. What happens when it isn't just a man who is possessed or a man who can haunt you in your dreams? What happens when it's a slasher, a killer coming after people one by one, but it's a force, an idea? That to me is even scarier, because I can stop Jason eventually. You know what? Put the machete in his head, he slides down it like chapter 4. That could happen. But how do you stop death? You could cheat it, but as we've learned in these movies, you can't really cheat it for too long. I think this movie to me is infinitely scarier than a Halloween movie. I can fight Michael Myers. I'll probably lose, especially if it's Rob Zombies. I can fight Michael Myers. I cannot fight Smoke Monster in my room that's about to like make the fan turn up to 5 that blows this dust into my eye and then I fall out the window. Like, I can't prevent that. That's what to me that makes this movie that much more scarier. And that is something I will say though. I do wish the Final Destination movies kind of touched on these slasher elements a little bit more. They definitely become all about the kills, and I love the kills. The outlandish kills in the sequels are amazing, but the kills here are just so visceral. It's the bus, it's the Val Lewton one with the knives in the chest, it's that one, it's the train with the dick. It's all of these like kills that feel so much more real and more grounded, that really impact you. And again, it kind of adds this like accidental thing, but we know it's not an accident. We know that there's a malevolent force here just trying to like push this agenda of killing these people. It's so interesting. And again, it's never been done again, where we always have death blowing some like kind of blowing in and changing the course of these people's lives, but it's never been, as to me, as obvious that death is the killer and then it is in the first movie. It's sad, because I really do like it. I really think it's an element that makes Final Destination feel so unique compared to everybody. Like, I'm sitting here now while I'm thinking about it, thinking of more supernatural slashers, that term, and I'm like, well, they have like Tourist Trap. There is slashers out there that can have a supernatural element to it, but none have really hit quite like this. What would I say is the legacy of Final Destination? Well, other than giving me Ali Larter and Devon Sawa as crushes in the 1990s and 2000s, my goodness, I was so in love with these two so much in this movie. They're so adorable. I love, oh my god, Ali Larter looks like a baby in this movie. And I've seen young Devon Sawa, but like young Devon, oh my goodness, love these two gems. But yes, other than just those two actors, just the actors in general, and giving me Jeffrey Reddick, who's someone I follow on social media, and I just love watching his career. Other than all of that, I love that these movies, this movie, and again, especially number 2 as well, they've instilled fear in a generation. There is a group of people who are so terrified to get behind those cars with the logs in it. There's so many people who are just kind of changed so much. I mean, airport habits? Trust me, this movie could not have come out a year later. It would have been a much different plot in the beginning of this. But yeah, I really love the generational stuff that this has done. The fact that this has instilled fear in us. This is a movie that has become pop culture shorthand. Like, we're like, oh, we're not going to do that. Tanning beds, the LASIK surgery in one of the later films as well. All these little moments really do stand out to you and stick with you, and it becomes part of our brains of going, oh, yikes, but the Final Destination moment. You hear something crazy on the news, and it's just like, well, the lady got into a car crash, but she was actually like flipped the car and it landed on another car. You're like, what in the Final Destination? Like, it's become pop culture for us, and I love that Final Destination has been able to have that. And again, we have a new Final Destination movie this year. 25 years later, we are like bloodlining it. We are seeing the OG, maybe. I don't know much about this new Final Destination, but I'm really excited to see if they can connect back to the original. If maybe Death has a couple people he didn't get in the other movies, and he's just like, and now I'm getting you, your family, your bloodline, I'm wiping out everybody. I don't know exactly what the plot is, but I'm hooked. I'm there. I'm trying to think of like what else can they build to scare us. I'm like, oh my goodness, like can they what about with our smartphones now? What about with our smart houses? Oh my god, what if like everything in the phone? Oh my goodness, you could have so much fun in the modern era with Final Destination. But hell, even if you want to make this a period piece, about to say period piece for the year 2002, but like even if you want to do an early 2000s kind of throwback vibe, there's so many elements that you can take with Bloodlines to make it feel this fresh and new that I just love that, you know, we could do half of it in the past, half of it in the present day, and still make it so scary. That's what's so good about Final Destination. Like a good slasher, it's a template. You can put whatever you want onto this movie, whatever generational stuff, whatever references you want, whatever kills, it all just works into this movie well, and that's why I truly think that this is one of the best of the early 2000s, and to me, the most iconic slasher supernatural element that's ever existed. Well, that is it for my retrospect of Final Destination from 2000. My goodness, I absolutely love this movie, and I loved journeying back with this, you know, watching it on Max. Make sure you guys go watch. I think they're all on Max now. That is so awesome that we can have all of them in one little house and getting to watch them and experience the kills. I really love, particularly, I like 1, I like 3, and I like 5. I guess I would say those are kind of my Final Destinations that I live with and I live at the most, but I kind of appreciate all of them, and I really cannot wait to see the new one that's coming out later this year. So what did you guys think of this video? What is your favorite kill in the Final Destination franchise? Share your thoughts down in the comments below. Subscribe to Flickering Myth for more videos just like this, and give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy, you know, all the bells, the whistles, all that jazz, and let's talk about Final Destination right down below.